are you?
Good. Hey, your stuff, I didn't spend much time reviewing all the stuff. Is this approval for? Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is the City Council meeting being held March 6, 2017. We'll start with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom. Drew. Solomon. Doyle. Estes. Scott. Laurenti. Wright. Modrick. Roberts. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. For our invocation tonight, do we have Bishop Joseph in the house? We're missing a couple people tonight. So let's stand for a moment of silence for our veterans tonight, and afterwards we'll join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the Is there Christian Messina in the house? We're missing another person here, so we're going to bypass awards and recognitions and go on to the next item, which is a need for executive session pursuant to SDCL 1-25-2, subsection 1, for the purpose of discussing the qualifications of a prospective public officer or employee. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, a motion by Estes and a second by Solomon. All in favor of executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We're in executive session, and we'll be back, folks, in just a few minutes. Okay, we have a motion to come out of executive session by Estes, second by Laurenti. All in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we are in general session again. We'll go to Steve Laurenti.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to authorize the mayor to make an offer of employment to a prospective city budget analyst at an amount higher than step 7.
Second.
Okay, that motion was seconded by Lisa Modrick. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thank you. Now we're in general public comment. A time for the members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. We have one speaker request form for general public comment, Mr. Jay Davis. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Allender, members of the council. I'd just like to speak briefly on the issue of affordable housing. The proposal to develop tiny houses here in Rapid City, as is already happening elsewhere in the country, is a positive step, but I don't really think it addresses the concerns we have with affordable housing in Rapid City. I think our experience will show in the years to come that the tiny houses appeal primarily to members of my generation who've accumulated less stuff than I seem to have cluttering my house. And in a town with a lot of people working for relatively low wages, a home that sells for over $100,000 may not be quite affordable. I would submit that the first priority, if we really want to do something about our affordable housing crisis in Rapid City, is to quit tearing down neighborhoods that consist of affordable houses. I'm going to give 3 specific examples of neighborhoods that have fallen to the bulldozer in recent years. Number 1, Silver Street, particularly the lower half of Silver Street, which has been eliminated to make way for luxury development in Founders Park and for a new off-ramp configuration from Interstate 190. Example number 2 would be the neighborhood between South Dakota School of Mines and downtown, which has been cleared out partially to make way for new high-rise student housing that looks like something out of the old Soviet Union. Example number 3 would be the apartment complex that used to be at the southwest corner of Maple and Anamosa. Some people might say that the neighborhoods that are gone that I described were basically eyesores or consisted of shacks. And to that, I would just say that often when a residence is an eyesore, all it really needs is a fresh coat of paint and a little bit of TLC, and it can be restored to where it's not an eyesore. And even if I concede that the homes, particularly on the lower part of Silver Street, were accurately described as shacks, I would still maintain that for a low-income family, a shack with a yard is better than a motel room on East North Street or East Boulevard North. I hear it said that a person cannot purchase a home in Rapid City today for less than $100,000. Having lived for many years in a 4-bedroom home in a quiet part of North Rapid, and having come down to a sale price of $74,000 in the middle of 2013, I beg to differ. What we lack is buyers who can come up with the financing to get these homes. And I would just suggest as a starting point, you may have more solutions to the problem of saving older neighborhoods from the bulldozer than I have, but I'll suggest one specific tonight, and that is that you examine the zoning policy with an eye to zoning for single-family housing rather than apartments or commercial if you want to save a neighborhood. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And now we'll go to Charity Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to publicly announce that there's a town hall style meeting this Thursday, March 9th, 6:30 to 8 o'clock at the Historic Performing Arts Center. The presentation is called Meth Changes Everything, and I know that the meth epidemic weighs heavily on the hearts and minds of a lot of people across the nation and in our own community. There will be a couple of different presentations followed by a panel, and then questions from the audience too. So if you could please help us spread the word and get that. It is being hosted by Lifeways, and we would definitely like to see a good turnout. The more armed and knowledgeable we are, the better we can combat this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now on to non-public hearing items, items 3 through 34. We'll open, the public comment is for items 3 through 25, and there's no speaker requests for those numbers, so we'll move on to consent items 3 through 25. Would anyone like to remove any of those items? Charity Doyle.
Item number 22, Mayor.
Okay, any others? If not, can I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion and a second, was that by Solomon? To approve the consent items minus item number 22. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now on to item number 22. Okay, go ahead.
Item number 22 is to approve a request by KTM Design Solutions, Inc. for BH Capital LLC for resolution number 2017-009, a petition of annexation for property generally described as being located in the southeast quadrant of East St. Patrick Street and South Valley Drive intersection. I make a motion to approve option number 1 with revised legal.
Okay, we have a second to that motion by Lisa Modrick.
Thank you.
All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. That takes us through item number 25. Now we'll go on to non-consent items, items 26 through 34. We'll open public comment on those items, and we'll go to Kent Haig on item number 32.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to bring to the Council's attention just a little bit of detail about the item 32 this evening. The Freeland Ranch subdivision plan that was approved this earlier by Planning and Zoning Commission. This is the very first part of a larger affordable housing mixed socioeconomic neighborhood that includes some general commercial, not a lot, but it does include some office commercial. It includes some Marshall Goodman type homes scenarioed. It also townhomes, single family dwellings, and that's in the full layout. Tonight, and the reason we proceeded with this phase 1 was so that we stay on track with the proposed site for the Rural America initiatives and also some initial drainage area and a small piece of general commercial and a piece of apartments as well. So if I may, Mayor, I've got a larger display from where you're sitting. It may not look very large, but I show the general vicinity for those who may not be familiar with the exact location. Successfully carried off in many areas of the country. And the key is, part of the key is, having a neighborhood that has different levels of everything from beginner homes to some tiny homes, multi-family dwellings, but they would range and serve everybody from significantly under the
Thank you. And this will close public comment, and that'll take us on to ordinances, starting with item number 26. And I'd ask our Chair of our Legal Finance Committee, John Roberts, if he would read these in.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First reading ordinance number 6113, an ordinance to amend park use regulations by amending chapter 12.24 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Give it a second by Lisa Modrick. And we'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for Jeff Bigler, please. I had a concerned constituent call me, Chad Lewis, and he was wondering on Section 8 here why we need the 60-day time frame for a vendor permit, why that can't be a shorter time period, maybe even to 30 days. What is the idea behind a full 60 days for a vendor permit?
Well, that's, excuse me, that's to give, not only to give staff time to gear up a potential site for use as a vending site, but also in case there are additional permits that are needed beyond the permit that we would issue, they may have to go and get additional permits from another source. This would allow them the time to do that.
Could you be more specific on what an additional permit might be?
Well, for instance, there are some, depending on the location for the vending or the vending location, it could be located in the flood area where a conditional use permit might be necessary for an area that does not allow, the zoning doesn't allow a vendor as other than with a conditional use. So that might be one of the things. Or it could be a health license from the health department, something like that.
So this actually does apply to food trucks, correct?
Correct, yes.
And any other kind of concessionaires?
Well, this was originally in our ordinance as vendors and peddlers. So it used to be the vendor carts were what you would see in a park or on a street or something like that. But with all of the food trucks that have appeared over the last couple of years, this now addresses the food truck issue in parks. This does not have anything to do with food trucks located on private property or in other parts of the city, but just within the parks.
Do you foresee new vendors coming into the area that wouldn't be able to get a permit by summer? I mean, how is this, are you monitoring the growth of food trucks or vendors in the park areas?
Well, this is kind of new to all of us. I think
It is, yes.
I know a couple of years ago we had maybe one, maybe two food trucks. Last year we had quite a few more. Mm-hmm. We're only going to be opening up a limited number of sites. We don't anticipate having food trucks in every one of our parks. And we'll just have to monitor it and see what happens.
Well, I just remember with a time constraint we had a couple years ago, there was a gal that wanted to do an ice cream cart, and go around Memorial Park in that area. And we weren't able to really grant that request because of time constraints. And the 60 days seems a little bit, I don't know, heavy-handed to me. But I guess since we're just starting this, I'll go ahead and vote for it. But it seems like something we might need to revisit, if we find that's too long of a time period for people to actually get their ducks in a row.
If I may, this first year we could certainly be a little more lenient, but I think in future years as these food trucks become established here, the 60 days won't be restrictive at all.
Okay, I certainly am concerned about public safety, as I know you are, so thank you for that explanation. I think I can go ahead and vote for this. Thank you.
Okay, motion on the table is for approval. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, please.
Item 27, first reading ordinance 6158, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Spearlich Consulting Incorporated for ZO Incorporated for rezoning from General Agricultural District to Low Density Residential District 2 for property generally described as being located northeast of Jolly Lane and Ping Drive intersection, and I recommend approval.
Okay, we had a second from Steve Laurenti. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Item 28, first reading ordinance 6159, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Spearlich Consulting Incorporated for benevolent and protective order of Elks for rezoning from low-density residential district 2 to general agricultural district for property generally described as being located northeast of Jolly Lane and Ping Drive intersection. And I recommend approval.
Second by Steve Laurenti. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Item 29, second reading of ordinance number 6156, an ordinance repealing chapter 1.08 of the Rapid City Municipal Code relating to wards and precincts and adopting a new revised chapter 1.08 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I recommend approval.
Second.
Okay, second by Lisa Modrick. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Item 30, first reading ordinance number 6167, an ordinance narrowing the municipal licensing requirements for ambulances by amending section 5.16.010 and 5.16.020 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, and I recommend approval.
Second by Darla Drew. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now on to Community Planning and Development Services items. Number 31 is a request by KTM Design Solutions Incorporated for Black Hills Capital LLC for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots A and B of Johnson Ranch subdivision, generally described as being located southeast of the quadrant of East St. Patrick Street and South Valley Drive intersection. This item was continued from February 21st. The recommendation from committee is to approve with stipulations. Okay, motion by Darla Drew. Second by John Roberts. We'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if I need to recuse myself, but just make you aware that I've been having conversations with the owner of the property, and plus have had conversations with the staff to collect more information, so I'll leave it up to your determination if I need to be recused.
Okay, I doubt you need to be recused.
Thank you. If I may continue, Mayor?
Yes.
This project looks very favorable, but however, the biggest concern that I have is the reconstruction of this road that's now county road. And so if we can figure out a way to work through that process, that's the part that is a major concern for me, so that we can help hold down the costs on the homes that are going to be built on the other property that's going to be developed there as well.
So, Mr. Nordstrom, your comment has to do with rebuilding the road prior to annexation? Is that what it was, or after?
Well, normally we do it during, and sometimes we do it after. So that's my only concern, is the cost is entirely upon the developer, and I do not want to support a warp for this area as well. So if we can figure out a way to make the desired or the recommended road improvements over there, I'll be much more on board with this. But that's the only issue that I have. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to go to Public Works Director Dale Tech.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can perhaps shed some light on this. The applicant's been working with his traffic engineer as well as city staff to come up with what improvements are necessary on South Valley Drive, as well as I believe internally to this subdivision. So there's an item 33 on the agenda that is was an exception to some of the road improvements. The request for that item is going to be to continue it 2 more weeks to allow the applicant to work those issues out. We believe that they're heading in the right direction. So this item can be approved with stipulations as noted on the agenda, because one of the stipulations is to figure out what to do with the road improvements before. So I think we're in a good place here with that motion that was made.
Okay, so motion on the floor is for approval with stipulations. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 32, a request by KTM Design Solutions for Hegg Brothers LLC for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1 and 2 of Block 1 and drainage lot of Block 2 of Freeland Ranch, generally described as being located north of Seeger Drive. Okay, we have a motion to approve with stipulations by Laurenti and a second by John Roberts. Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a few questions for Mr. Hague, please.
Hi.
Hi, and thank you for your work on this. I think that we kind of need to define some terms because I'm hearing a lot of terms lately as we work towards affordable housing for our community. So maybe you can help me with some of these things. When you're talking about a starter home, what is that and what is the cost you're looking at?
Well, as a precursor to that comment, a starter home, whether it's a young couple just starting out or a young professional or workforce housing or something that addresses the many levels of what is defined as affordable housing under the housing and urban development definitions. This subdivision would include all of the above. The Marshall Goodman homes, I think that people became a bit familiar with based on the Monroe Street project that was before this council approximately a month ago. It would include some of those style of efficient use of land type of buildings that they can be three-plexes, four-plexes, six-plexes, but it would include a certain number of those. It would also include townhomes, which would be in the form of duplexes or triplexes. The important thing, and some single-family dwellings, and some apartment complexes. Again, all with an eye towards affordability, sustainable affordability, so it's not just a benefit to the first owner. And there are very effective mechanisms in place that that Dakota Land Trust uses. Habitat uses, South Dakota Housing Development Authority uses. There are many mechanisms, and what my hope is for this subdivision is that affordable lots, affordable finished build-ready lots can be provided to the general public, meaning private builders or people who might choose to buy a home but want it built under certain consideration for affordability, for agencies like Habitat, for Dakota Land Trust, for NeighborWorks, for Pennington County Housing Authority. The list goes on and on of so many agencies that do a lot of good work. But if there's one common thread I hear from each and every one of them is it's really tough to find affordable lots that, if they are affordable to keep the prices down on the overall project, they require quite a bit of work, maybe different encumbrances that need to be cleared off, or maybe there's geographically and physically challenging. So what we want to achieve here is, and matter of fact, I want to back up a little bit too, is that the nonprofit corporation, Freeland Ranch Community, Inc., has been formed. It's recognized by the Secretary of State. It's been incorporated. We are currently working closely with Neighborhood Works Dakota Land Trust on the formation of, we have, of course, the articles are approved, but the formation of the operating agreement and so forth. But it will take larger parcels of land, as any developer would, but through a series of financing mechanisms such as tax increment district, such as different grants and loans that are available, everything from CDBG to you name it.
I only have 5 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
And so we could just, are you talking $200,000? Is that what your goal is for those?
Oh, that's right. That was the question.
What's the question?
No, I would hope these would range from anywhere from, if I had to guess, 110 to 225, depending on the range, because it is multi-socioeconomic different of dwellings, but it depends on these other agencies. Freeland Ranch, Inc. will not be the builder. It'll be only the seller of the land. The proceeds from the sale, it will keep a majority of, and be able to sustain the maintenance and care and development of Freeland Ranch for decades.
Okay, so your affordability will depend on partnerships with those kinds of
Absolutely.
fiduciary, okay. All right, that's kind of what I was trying to get to, because there are so many of these terms: workforce, affordable, low income, whatever it is that's being thrown around, that we really kind of need to get definitions before I can make a good decision. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, thank you. Barb Garcia has been a big help on learning those definitions too, by the way. So.
Now we'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. Kent, if you'll remain up there. I'm a little curious about the phases that you're planning on putting together up there on the Freeland Ranch area. Am I reading this correctly, that looks like RAI will be one of the first developments and then spread out to the other areas of the houses or the multifamily houses?
That's correct. The reason for that is that the subdivision plan, although the entire subdivision layout has been submitted, and it has been submitted probably about over a year and a half ago now to staff for their comments to be able to incorporate everything from utilities to zoning, you name it. So we aren't building it on a pipe dream, so to speak, where it's not feasible in the first place. So the bottom line is that REI is included in as one of the first sites, and the reason is that they've with the Vision Fund money that has been awarded, and also recent other contributions they've received, they anticipate possibly being able to accelerate their scheduling. So the site that is on there and included in this would be one step closer to being platted more quickly as that process unfolds as well for them. So that's why it only includes like 3 lots and a drainage lot.
Sure.
Okay, anything more than that would have required a traffic study, which is fully intended on being conducted. But this number of lots didn't require a traffic study because of the density.
Kent, if I can interrupt, one of the things I'm interested in is if REI is one of the first developments that's going to take place here, when do we start working on the housing part of this, including the MDR as well?
Immediately, and it's in its design and layout that we are very anxious to demonstrate the location of affordable housing, apartments, again, Goodman Homes, all those types of different structures. But that will come about just as soon as and in tandem with things like the traffic study and so forth, so that it can be fine engineered, so to speak, to get things ready for bid, because we will be seeking a tax increment district on this, the Freeland Ranch Inc. will. And we'll be working with community development and so forth for a number of different sources.
Thank you. We'll stand by for that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, item number 32, a motion on the floor is for approval with stipulations. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
On to the Public Works item number 33. We'll go to Charity Doyle.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 33 is appeal of denial of request from KTM Design Solutions for an exception to waive the requirements for subdivision improvements on South Valley Drive. I'll make a motion to move this, continue this to the March 20th City Council meeting per the applicant's request.
Okay, we have a second by Richie Nordstrom. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. On to item number 34. Under staff items, approve change order number 1 to the Lind Exco Inc. for an increase of $14,444.58 for removal of additional silt from the landfill stormwater pond. Move to approve. Motion to approve from Estes, second by Laurenti. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. The last item, and there's no speaker request for public hearing, so we'll go right to item number 35. Central Baseball Association for a special event malt beverage license for an event scheduled for March 11th, 2017 at ProMark, 4624 Creek Drive. We have a motion to approve by Drew and second by Laurenti. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 36 is the bill list, and we'll go to Finance Officer Pauline Sumption.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are no additions to the bill list, so the total is that which is attached at $5,490,304.57.
Okay, we got a motion to approve by Laurenti and a second by Solomon. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn by Estes, second by Laurenti. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned. Thank you.